So let's get this thing set up here real quick. So I'm working with a very small window here. Cool. So what I'm gonna talk about is two different things today. One's a product called Desktop Server. How many of you do development locally? What are you guys using? Like Map, Zamp, Lamp, one of those types of things?
Desktop server. As of like a couple weeks ago.
Desktop Server it's awesome. It's developed by a guy named Steven, who's down over in San Diego. He makes a really cool product, and what it does is it supercharges your WordPress web development. I'm going to do two different talks here, but I'm going to kind of tie them all together so you can see how quick it is to actually get a site up and running.
You say what?
Sorry?
I'm sorry, say that again. I didn't hear what.
I'm going to show you how to get a site up and running.
Okay. You said how fast it's going to take?
Yeah, how fast it's going to take to do it.
Okay.
So I'm not trying to get all these little windows here. I'd like to have them open. All right, so what we're first going to do is I'm going to show you how you can spin up a WordPress install using Desktop Server. So let's load up Desktop Server. And the first thing Desktop Server asks you to do is it's essentially saying I want to run with super user permissions, root level permissions. So we're going to tell it yes, we want to run root level permissions here. And then it's going to ask me for my password. Don't look. And then after that, it's going to ask me how do I want to go about this. Now I'm running the Desktop Server Premium version of it. It's I believe $59 for it. You can get the free version, which allows you to run three local sites on there. But what this is really doing, and I'm gonna kind of veer off here real fast, is it's using Zamp. And what's going to do is it's going to take the information from Zamp and build this front-end interface for it. So it's going to interact directly with Zamp. It's going to do a few things like, for instance, this blueprint thing down here. It's going to take this blueprint and do some stuff with it, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. But what it's going to do is allow me to spin up a quick little site. So let's go and click here. It's going to ask me what I want to name the site. We'll name it something easy. And at the very end of it, it puts the extension .dev, D-E-V, at the end of it. It's doing that because it wants you to be able to access that site locally, and also allow you to have, say, I could put Google in there. It could be google.dev. And if I was working on Google, then I could, not have to flip-flop between google.com and google.dev. Or I can flip-flop between google.com and google.dev and not really affect anything. And I know I'm on my local environment here. This thing also supports multi-site. So if you're going to be working on a multi-site environment, down at the bottom there's a checkbox for multi-site. So we'll hit create. What it's going to do is it's going to take that blueprint that I was just showing you a moment ago, and it's going to use that. And the blueprint is the zip file that contains the WordPress installation. So if you want to have, say if you're going to develop for an old version of WordPress, for whatever reason, maybe backwards compatibility or something, you can put that in there. If you want to put trunk in there, latest and greatest version, that's not even released yet, you can put that on there. And this is really great for someone who's doing plugin development, because they want to make sure that trunk, it's going to work in trunk, and it's also going to work in the current. Now that it's done, what it does is it manages all these things for you. It manages the folder, it manages the virtual hosts, and it takes care of all of the server name information. And it creates a database for you. So now I have all of that done. It's going to restart the services. It's going to give me the link to be able to put in my information here. Okay, so now that I've put that information in there, I'm able to log in. Okay, so now that I'm logged in, now I have my, my local installation. So you can see here, my local install, and here's all the information that's available to me in WordPress. Now, the next thing I want to show you is how you can take an existing site and back it up and then import it into desktop server. And it's freaking crazy. Because what it does is it takes that backup, and I'm going to use Backup Buddy because it's popular. I'm not a big fan of Backup Buddy, but you can definitely use Backup Buddy to do the backup. There's other ones that you can do as well. This also supports, if you use WP Engine for your web host, you can take a WP Engine backup. So they use Git. We were just talking about Git a few minutes ago. But they use Git, so it'll actually create a Git snapshot, and it'll let you import that Git snapshot into this. So let's get into that real fast. So just to kind of save you guys time-wise, I went and already did my backups. And I have two different backups that are listed here. One is, this one's from WP Engine, and this one is one that's made from Backup Buddy. If you're not familiar with Backup Buddy, it's a great little piece of software to back up, restore, do those sorts of things. I'm kind of a manual person myself, but now with Desktop Server, what you can do is take one of those backups and import it. So we're going to go down here. Maybe, okay. And then we're going to click Next, and it's going to ask me what I want to do with it. I want to import my existing, and it's going to ask me, where's your file? Now, one thing to remember here, if you are someone who uses Desktop Server, you're gonna look on your desktop here, like I am, and you're gonna see all your files on your desktop, right? So I have all those files there. Now, if you go look on this here, this prompt, it's like there's my desktop, but I don't have any files in here. What's going on? Well, if you remember in a previous step, it asked me to log in as root. So I'm actually looking at root's desktop. So if you ever look at this and you're like, what the heck is going on? Don't hit up my buddy Steven because he doesn't want to answer your question about this. But what it really comes down to is you need to actually access your desktop folder. So my name is Jason, so we're going to go find Jason. And then we're going to go find Jason's desktop, which is right here. And then I have a file on there somewhere. Oh, on the wrong hard drive. My goodness. Let's go back to my solid state drive. Then we'll go to users. Then we'll go to Jason, and there's my desktop. Okay, so I have my demo files in here. So let's go and import one of these guys. We'll import this one. We'll hit open, and now we're going to name it. And the file that we just grabbed, just had to use myself, was the WP file. Okay, so now I'm going to import it. Now, one of the things it asks you is, do you want to set up custom scrubbing options? Scrubbing is a few different things. One, it goes through and it does a bunch of things with serialized data. So it'll take care of all of the serialized information that's in the WP options folder for you, or WP options table for you. It also does some things with changing the directory or the directory locations in some of like hard-coded directory locations. We'll leave that enabled so you can see what happens with it. So what it's going to do right now is it's going to analyze all the files like I was telling you with the whole scrubbing thing, and it's going to figure out how it's going to do its search and replaces. So if you see here on the server that I was on over at the other web host, you can see here's the names that it had, and here's what it's going to change it to. And then even the domain name, it's going to flip-flop that for me too. So let's hit go. And now what it's going to do is it's going to do the little quick scrubbing, which I found those three different items in there. And once it's done, that's it. So now if I go over to wpmediapro.dev, it's actually going to show the content from the WP Media Pro site that I just made a backup from. Now, one thing regarding this is that WP Engine, if you guys are familiar with them or not, they use Git, and they only provide you with certain files. So they're providing like the CSS files and stuff, but they're not providing me with the images because they don't store images in their Git repository. But that's neither here nor there. So let's go and do one more of these just so you can get an idea of what the other one does. We go back over to desktop server, and we're going to import another website. So we'll hit import. We're going to import an existing site from an archive, and we're going to go and find our file here. So we'll go back to JSON. We'll go back to his desktop, and we're going to grab this beta3.jsontucker.us. So we'll do beta3.json. All right. We're not going to do any scrubbing this time. We don't need to. I've already tested this. And what it's going to do is it's going to create the database, import the files, get everything going, and I'm going to be able to access that site. This is just a basic site that I just slapped together real fast. So that's how you import a file, import an existing site. So say, for instance, you inherit a site from a customer, and you're inheriting it from a previous developer. You got that site. Now you want to do everything correct, and you want to actually start taking care of that site locally. That's where desktop server would come into play. Another thing that I use desktop server for is for testing out new versions of WordPress. And what I was going to show you here is how you go about doing that. So if we go over to applications folder, we'll go to the XAMPP folder, we'll go to blueprints. I'll open that folder up so you can see it. You can see that there's a few different folders in here. You have trunk, which I'm using Git to update this trunk folder. You also have a WordPress 3.6. I have an old version of WordPress 3.51, and I just recently downloaded a new version of WordPress. Let's go to downloads. Oh, I already have 3.51. Okay. So what you end up doing is you extract this file here, and you name it. Oops. You name it what it's going to actually be. And the reason why you do this is so when you go and create the new site, my new development site, I can select which one I'm going to be doing. So 3.51. And when I go and install it, it's going to now. Oh, I already have one called example. 3.351. Let's call that. All right, so now I'm going to create a new installation of WordPress using WordPress 3.51. So I can do my testing, doing my stuff from here using that particular version of WordPress. The other thing that's really cool about blueprints is, say like if you have a very specific workflow that you do, you always use Backup Buddy, you always use Yoast SEO, you always use all of these different plugins. What you do is you extract that folder into the blueprints folder. So for instance, in here, you go into content, you go into plugins, and you drop your favorite plugins in here. You set that up, and when you go and create your new site, it's going to use that blueprint with all those plugins and everything all ready to go for you. So you don't have to do any of that stuff. So if you're one of those developers like me that puts a lot of their functionality in a functionality plugin, that's the way to go. You drop it in there, you'll never forget your plugin. You always have all of your information that you need for it. It's pretty handy. So what I wanted to kind of dovetail this into, since we're kind of trying to wrap up this whole thing, is how you can deal with video, responsive video. And for those of you that know or don't know what responsive is, responsive being that the site and its structure and everything responds to the size of the window. Since this projector is smaller like this, when you go and shrink down the page, you can see how everything responds to it. Well, in WordPress, video is a little funky, depending on the theme, depending on the way that it's set up. This is a post that I wrote about how to deal with responsive WordPress, or sorry, responsive themes using video. I write on a blog called WP Media Pro, and I talk about this type of stuff, a bunch of video stuff. These videos will actually, that I'm recording now, will be up on the site. And so one of the things I'm showing you here is, this is on the iPhone. You can see how it gets chopped off, right? Let me pull this up here real fast, and I'll give you a good example of how that happens. So I'm going to pull up my iPhone real quick here, and I'm going to show you what's on my phone. And we're going to pull up the website. If you guys have never done this before, you can use this great application called Air Server. I think it's like 20 bucks or something. And what it does is it lets you you turn your computer into an AirPlay device, so I can push out video to it. So I can rotate the device, and you can actually see everything on there. So what I was going to show you here is that particular video page and what happens to it. So if we go down, you can see like that right there got cut off. But we'll go down to the responsive page, and talking about responsive video. And I set up two different videos on here. One that is responsive, one that's set up so it can't. So it is responsive, one that's not. So if you see here, this is a video of my my hangout that we do on Mondays, and you can see the video playing on here. Now, mind you, it's going to work just fine because it went full screen mode. But if you look on here, you can see how it's the way in which it is being displayed on the screen here for the preview. Now, if you scroll down some, you can see this one is actually being cut off. And there's a couple ways of dealing with that. One of them is by a few different plugins. One of the plugins that I've been kind of playing around with a little bit in the last couple weeks is one called FitVids. Sure, this so we can see it. So FitVids, what it does is it takes uses jQuery, and it figures out what the height and width of that video is, and it displays the video in the correct aspect ratio. And what it does is it looks at the container that it's in, and it figures out what the width of that container is, and then using its aspect ratio that it has, it then tries to get it to fit in there. Are any of you never used something called OEmbed, or know what OEmbed is? OEmbed just lets you take a YouTube video's web address, the actual URL of it. So like for instance this right here. I can grab this and go into the video. Go edit this post and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And what it lets you do is it lets you just drop that URL in there with no wraps or nothing wrapped around it or anything, and it'll embed that video for me. So if we scroll down a little bit here, and we'll turn this into text mode, you can see that there's my video here just by itself. And I'm going to show you why I was using this because I was playing around with it a little bit. But what this lets you do is you can take this URL and just drop it in there, and it'll figure out based off a bunch of rule sets that are in WordPress's core to figure out what it should do with that video. What should it do with that? Is it a slide share? Is it a YouTube video? Is it a Vimeo? What is it? And then it builds that embed code for you. So you don't have to take the embed code and slap it in there. You just grab the URL and stick it in there and you're good to go.
Sorry, what was the name of that plugin?
That's built into WordPress. It's called OEmbed.
OEmbed?
OEmbed. Mm-hmm.
What version did they start that? Was it fairly recent?
Yeah, it was, I think, maybe version and a half ago,
Okay.
maybe 2 versions.
Yeah, all right.
So So you can see what happens here is I got the two different videos, and when I go and shrink this down, you can see what happens. One of the videos, the one that's on the top here, is actually shrinking like it's supposed to. The one that's on the bottom, or sorry, the one that's on the bottom is starting to get cut off. My resolution's a little weird on this screen currently, but you can see like right on the edge here, it's getting cut off. You know, if you have somebody who has an iPhone like mine, where it's not, it's Retina displayed, but you know maybe the actual screen size is wacky or something like that, it's going to get cut off. Where something like this, you know, be able to scale it up and down as needed. So let's go back to desktop server real fast, and I want to install a new version of WordPress, and we're going to play with another plugin. So we're going to use FitVids. Oops. And I'm going to install this. We'll use 351. Why not? And then we'll install it. Okay, so now we have a new installation done. Go through, set up my quick little install. And see, when I'm playing around with plugins, you know, I don't want to kind of taint the database with all this junk that gets added in that, you know, sometimes developers don't know how to clean up after themselves when you remove a plugin. So I usually use Desktop Server to play around with those plugins before I can roll them into a production site. All right, so now let's go and log in. Okay, so now we're on fitvids.dev. We're going to go and install that plugin fitvids. All right, plugins installed. And what fitvids does is it takes that OEmbed URL that you're sticking in the post. So we're going to go grab this guy right here. Now, just so I'm not sure if you guys are familiar or not with how the way in which YouTube works, but down here on the bottom, if you click on share, you can get this embed code, and you can grab this embed code and stick it on any site, Tumblr or whatever, and it'll do it. And even Tumblr now and stuff, they're starting to use OEmbed. It just makes it easier so people aren't having to set the height and width and do any of that sort of thing. We're going to let WordPress kind of take care of that for us, especially with using this FitVids plugin. We'll replace the content here, and we'll go and update this post. Now we don't have FitVids installed just yet. And I'm going to change my theme because 2012 actually does some cool stuff with video that practically renders FitVids useless at this point. But you can see there's our video, and if we scale it down, see it's kind of cutting it off right here. So if we go back over to our post, to our dashboard, and we'll go and enable FitVids. Oh wait, we enabled it. Oh, that's right. So one of the things that you can do with FitVids is if you go into the FitVids dashboard interface here, you can set up a few things. If you know what the jQuery selector is that you're wanting to work with, that CSS selector, you can put that in there. And if you set up a custom selector, you can do that too. Well, we go back to the site, and since all these things are wrapped in graph tags, it should work just fine. Now it's scaling. So you can see it's not actually cutting off any of the video, it's keeping it nice and clean. Awesome. The other one that I was playing around with, oops, oh, my phone just went off. The other thing what I was going to show you in here is on this site, I was playing around with a few different of these plugins, and one in particular that I was messing around with is responsive video playing. Yeah, fluid video embeds. This one right here. So with fluid video embeds, it doesn't use the OEmbed thing that I was showing you before. What it requires you to do is use a shortcode and put the shortcode around the video tag. It'd be good for you, but for your client would be kind of like, I don't want to do this. That's annoying. Who wants to go through and set that up? Let's go back to the front page of the site and we'll find that glitch real fast. So inside this post here, what I'm doing is putting this shortcode FVE, and you wrap it around that essentially that OEmbed. And what it does is the exact same thing I was showing you before. The thing that's different about this one that I really like is this plugin actually goes back to YouTube using an API call, and it says, hey YouTube, what's the height and width of this video? Like, what's its native height and width? And is it 1080p? Is it 720? Is it 320? Is it really, really bad? And it figures out what it's going to be, and it uses that along with some jQuery tricks to kind of figure out what the aspect ratio of that video is. And when you're kind of scaling down the video, it's smart about the way that it goes about scaling the video, because since it's using that API call to figure out what the video is doing. When you go and drag this in, you can see that it doesn't jump as much. Like the screen itself jumps, but the video itself it tries to stay as true as it can, because every time it does this, it's doing an API call back to YouTube to get the exact information about it. So it works out pretty well. So if you end up with a client who wants to do video on their site, they want to be able to have it nice and big, they also want to be able to shrink it down, and be able to have it work on mobile, this is the way to go for you. Any questions between the two different things I demoed?
What was the last plugin that you were talking about?
Fluid video.
At the end of the very
fluid video embeds. I was working on a little hack for fluid video embeds that would essentially do what the other one's doing, where it'll take that OEmbed for you and just kind of manipulate it on the fly. Because I really like the way that fluid video embeds works, but the guy who develops it hasn't been updating it as much as I wanted him to. So I submitted a bug to him saying, I'd really like this thing to work with OEmbed, but my clients, just like anybody else's clients, they want to make it simple, easy. They don't have to go and grab a particular YouTube code or whatever. They just want to stick the URL in there and have it ready to go. Any questions regarding desktop server? Nothing? Anybody interested in desktop server?
What's the difference between the free and the pro? Other than $59.
The difference is that you can only maintain 3 sites at any given point with the free version. If you look at MAP Pro is $59 and this one's $49, so you're saving $10. But MAP doesn't do any of the scrubbing. It doesn't do any of the additional features that are added. I only touched the surface on some of this. If you really want to get some more information about a desktop server, since the guy is engineering, he comes out and demos it for us every time he comes up with a new version of it. You go to ocwp.org and do a search up on the top there for desktop server. We have some demos that he's done, and he just blows our mind every single time. He's like, yeah, man, if you stick the SQL file in the root of the zip file, and when I import it, it automatically pulls in the database information. I was like, what? That's awesome! Like, who would think of that? Well, he did. Another cool thing that this thing does that I didn't get the demo here is if you're using Coda and you're using Coda Lite on the iPad, and you're actually developing for an iPad, you can beam the video or beam the output from desktop server from Coda onto Coda Lite on your iPad. So if you're making changes or anything, and you want to see what it's going to look like in a responsive environment, you can be able to do that like easy. It's just one little click. When you first running this, it asks you, do you want to do Coda 2 development, and then it takes care of it for you. That's it.
Cool, thanks.
In the afternoon, sleepies? Who's feeling sleepy?
That must mean you are.